So yeah, welcome again. Look, today is all about adjusting your business to the environment, and I think everyone understands the significance of this topic given the immensely volatile time we're all living in at the moment. So today is really about tackling how to use the economic headwinds to really power your business and continue scaling into 2023. So we'll introduce each other properly in just a sec, but I just wanted to start with a couple of housekeeping items. So if you are experiencing any issues when watching, please let us know via the chat section and we'll do our best to resolve these. If it's connectivity or Wi-Fi based, then I'd recommend maybe refreshing your page or exiting and re-entering. And unfortunately, that's about as good as my IT skills are going to get. If it's anything more serious, then let us know in the chat box and one of the team will try and help. Also, please use the chat box if you have any questions. I can't stress enough about how we want this session to be about you guys and not about us. So we want it to be as interactive as possible. And, please let us know what you want to hear from us specifically. We'll try and pick any questions up throughout, but we'll definitely save some time at the end to answer those as well. So we pulled together this amazing group of global leaders in the e-commerce space, all of which bring something slightly different to the table. So I'll start by introducing myself briefly. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Piers. I manage the business development and partnerships team at Storefund. I've been working in the space now for about 3 years across a broad range of areas. So, funding obviously at the moment, previously M&A, and I started actually doing taxes and compliance. Over to you, Alex.
Hey everybody, my name is Alex. I do work as a director of Amazon Ads for Thrasio. For those who don't know our company, we are buying Amazon sellers, and I do performance marketing now since 10 years. And in the last 5 years, I've mainly did that on large scale accounts like Airbnb and one of Germany's biggest Amazon seller, previously to Thrasio. So I'm all things marketing.
Hey everyone, my name is Pradeep. I used to be a scientist, then I dropped out. And then I used to be in M&A, then I dropped out. And then I became an Amazon seller. I haven't dropped out yet. So I'm selling.
You got hooked up, yeah.
just the Amazon seller. And recently we're very excited. Started a kind of a distressed asset acquisition company, specializing in turnaround and specialism in Amazon and e-commerce brands.
That's awesome. How about you, Yoni?
I'm Yoni Mazur, one of the co-founders and the chief growth officer of Getira. Getira, we do basically FBA auditing. We audit billions of dollars worth of FBA transactions every day. We're able to look back up to 18 months on all the data and find, issues that there's eligibility to get refunds and recoveries for sellers. So typically when you connect to Getira, we go back 18 months and all of a sudden you get flushed with all this money you never dreamed to have. And if we do successfully, hopefully that money that you get, adds to your EBITDA, to your earnings, to your profits, and you take that money and you keep kind of feeding your business and growing with it.
Of that, I actually signed up, Yoni, and
thank you. I saw that. I appreciate it.
You have saved me some money. Unfortunately, my business is far too small to make me a millionaire yet, but I'm getting there.
Let's get there.
So yeah, hi guys. Hi guys.
The free audit, Tom.
I did, yeah, free audit, yeah. Went through the onboarding process. Yeah. Anyway, it's not about Getira today. I'm joking. So yeah, hi guys. My name is Tom Meek. I've been within the e-commerce space for coming up 5 years now. Absolutely flown by. Started in the accounting and tax space, moved to payments. Now, funnily enough, came back into tax. Asked me 5 years before that. Would never have said that would be my pathway, but that's where I've ended up. Also an Amazon seller myself as well, and obviously working with everyone in the group here on a partnership point of view. So thanks for having me, Piers.
So most people tend to hate their taxes, whereas
that's why they come to us.
Good stuff. All right, so awesome, guys, and thanks very much for joining us. Very excited to have you all here and to get into it. So let's dive into the first question. And look, it's about what really sellers can expect in the next 12 months. As we've all experienced over the past kind of 24 months, it's been pretty tough to forecast anything that's really happened. But given where we find ourselves at the moment, I'm going to ask you guys just kind of what are your key insights? What trends could people look out for? What patterns do you expect to see in the e-commerce sector in Q4 and going into 2023? So let's fly around the room and Pradeep, let's start with you.
Thanks for signing with me. I want to state, I want to state the obvious. Go through a couple of things as a personal Amazon seller. What I and my team are seeing, and also from the distressed assets business, what we're seeing. Obviously, it's going to get worse before it gets better. What we're seeing is increased CPA, cost per acquisition costs going up. I believe from what we see in the distressed assets part, great brands that bring essential products or value to the customer can grow still, but there'll be a kind of plateau in some of these brands. We're seeing a lot of increased distressed and liquidated businesses coming on. I also predict there's going to be a lot of aggregators that are going to go distressed and out of business. I'm sorry if I'm hurting someone listening. And we're going to see, I believe, in terms of exit, a lot of smaller multiples. We're seeing that already, but strategic acquisitions. So a lot of people talk about what Hero Cosmetics has done, right, with Church and Dwight and the 630 million acquisition. But that acquisition is very strategic. Church and Dwight is very specific in healthcare products and so forth. So I think you're going to see those. I think the aggregators should do the same thing as well, or PE firms, very portfolio concentrated acquisitions we're going to see. And I also believe, in my gut, we'll see shipping prices increase, not as historic heights during COVID or after COVID, but that will drop as well. And we believe certain markets will be stressed more than others. We're particularly looking at Germany as a very distressed market in the next Q4 and Q1 particularly. I think it will turn up again in spring and summer.
What are the main elements that are disturbing the market in Germany right now? I wasn't aware of that, so thank you for the insight. What's happening there?
Well, it comes basically down to the energy crisis, supply chains of gas and oil and so forth into Germany. I was actually in Germany. Roland has a great kind of mastermind there, a conference there, and a great kind of entrepreneurial spirit there. But even there, you have a sense of the environment where there's a unknown out there, and you don't know how the German market, particularly the German people, respond to Amazon. I believe it's the second largest market, or up and coming. So I think that's a key there. And also, it's a question of, would you order on Amazon, or would you turn up the heating, or would you buy some food, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
And I think, I was on a podcast earlier this week, coming back to the brands that add value. If you can bring value, it might be a segue to the second question. Obviously, others can join in. But if you can bring value, this is what we're doing to our products, particularly the ones we acquire now. If you're doing 30 capsules in a supplement bottle, can you bring 90 days of supplies, 90 capsules in, and sell that added value so people keep coming back, so they save money, and tighten those margins so you can actually make those sales much more efficient. And if you bring that, I think customers will come. But the premium products market might take a slight hit.
Yeah, that's great, Pradeep. And yeah, any advice, I guess, on product side of stuff would be great to cover in the next question. Alex, coming in from an advertising perspective, or specifically with Amazon PPC, what can we expect?
Yeah, well, first I would agree to what we heard so far, that Europe is gonna be much harder hit eventually than other areas. Like North America seems to be more fine than Europe, and Germany just announced like a 200 billion relief fund for fighting the energy crisis, for getting our gas prices low, and people are uncertain about what is going to happen in winter, and do they actually have money left, because gas prices are crazy in Germany right now. But so I also feel that there will be sun coming back again to us after this hard winter. And looking into the marketing perspective specifically, I feel like some easy predictions for the next 12 months are, it's getting more complex. So Amazon Ads specifically is getting more complex since I joined a couple of years ago with this space. Amazon is pushing on sponsored brands, they're pushing on sponsored display adoption. They are giving us more reporting functionalities. I think this week in Europe, it's the first time that we have the search query performance report. We have this in the US for a longer time. This gives great insights, but it's another complex tool you need to manage. And Opportunity Explorer is the next one. We have this in the US. You can extract all the keywords from your competitors, and it's crazy. And it's very nice for sellers, but it also adds complexity, because you need to learn these tools. You need to implement these into your processes. And possibilities for advertising is getting better and more, and crazier, more targetings, more audiences. Like Save and Subscribe has been released for these peer audiences like last week. Last week has been a new launch for sponsored display video campaigns. So there's like every week something is happening. It's just getting more complex and also getting more competitive. As we also just heard, like we see crazy high CPCs on some. I just have like one example. We're selling many products, and one of them is a meat thermometer, and CPCs for meat thermometer are at $5, $6, $7 a click, and this product costs less than $20. How can you make that profitable?
Retail, I mean, right?
Yeah.
The retail price is less than $20. You're saying?
No. Currently, the prices on Amazon are at $10 because everybody wants to get rid of their inventory. But the, let's say, normal price is more in the $17, $18, $20. But even with that price, how can you make that profitable? So it's getting more complex. It's getting more competitive. Amazon has this new thing, Buy with Prime. They announced a couple of weeks ago to enable Shopify owners, Shopify D2C stores to actually also advertise on Amazon. So if you have a Shopify store, you can create a sponsored brand page, and this links out to your store, even though the customer journey is not frictionless, and people would probably not do that. But it's the first time that you can actually do basically advertise, because I can use a sponsored brand campaign to advertise for this store page to bring people to my D2C store. And in the future, there will also be the possibility for D2C companies to advertise on sponsored brand campaigns. For example, I can see Nike, who is actively pulled back from Amazon to sell on Amazon, to use the advertising possibilities in the future to bring traffic directly to the Nike store. And this will increase competition. This will increase CPCs. It will make things getting harder, and people need to learn all these things. And besides of that,
just to clarify, that Amazon's opened up some sponsored ad spots to brands that don't sell on Amazon. Is that right? Is that what you're saying there?
So currently, Amazon has this option, Buy with Prime. If you have a Shopify store, you can implement that, and customers can buy with Prime in the Shopify store, which allows the customer to get the Prime experience with the delivery and this seamless delivery.
But they find you or your store on Amazon? Where do they start the journey on Amazon? Then they go to your D2C website, or they start the D2C website and they see the Buy with Prime option?
Depends, but what you can do as a D2C store, you can use a sponsored brand campaign to advertise for your keyword, bring the customer to your Amazon store page. This Amazon store page has a product which is linking out to the Shopify store. So it's another click. So it's too many clicks for a customer to make it useful at the moment. But this will link out to the D2C store, and then the person can buy with Prime on this D2C store. And in the future, there will also be the option for these companies to directly use sponsored brands, not to send them to the store, but to send them directly to the D2C Shopify store, which makes the experience for the customer better, but it makes competition harder, because then companies like Nike or mattress company Casper, or these kind of the big companies, D2C companies, will be playing with you, with us, with all of us on the same placements, and this will make everything a bit more competitive and complex. And
I have a small question, Alexander. A small question: do you do the ads for Thrasio for all of the brands, or just in UK and just in EU or US, or all of them? What's your?
So personally, me and my team, we are doing it on the whole world for certain categories.
Yep, got it. Great.
And there's much things happening.
On that point as well, coming back to the CPA, it's very critical that people understand, and these are from novice to advanced, that the CPC, cost per click, is different from CPA, right? And it sounds so stupid, but people are not getting it. When you see in the back end, one click costs $5. One click doesn't equate to one sale, right? You're going to have a couple of clicks.
Exactly.
People are not doing these calculations. And I know, guys, it's very hard to do CPA calculations. You can't predict projections, so forth, but you've got to have conservative numbers in there. And all these P&Ls we see from the distressed assets, we went through 70 before we acquired our first kind of distressed brand. The CPA is off the charts, and they're not factoring this into it. So there's some real worry in terms of CPA and how you actually look at that would you agree that, Alex, the CPA costs and clicks are going through the roof as well? No, I know CPC is going, but your acquisition costs, how many clicks, on average, it's very hard to predict.
Yeah, I would agree that sellers need to at least expect a higher cost per acquisition, and they somehow need to do something about that. If you have like a business selling products which have a repurchase option or repurchase rate somehow, if you sell cosmetics or whatever, then obviously you want to look at CPA in a different way than if you're selling, I don't know, cushions, right? You don't buy cushions on a regular basis. You buy them once and then you have them. So it's a different thing. But in general, things will get more expensive. I would agree. Yeah.
Inflation is also within e-commerce and within Amazon selling. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Yeah, thanks, Alex. Yoni, Tom, I'm aware you guys have been pretty busy on the road of late, so I'm sure you've heard from lots of sellers. Yeah, look, it would be great to get your guys' insights as well on what's coming up.
Tom, hit him up. What you see? What do you hear on the streets from the sellers' predictions? What's the mood like?
Lots of predictions. Some people, I guess, don't want to hear as much, but I think some of the key areas that I think sellers should be focusing on is personalization being one of them. I think that personalization will become absolutely essential for brands to grow. So very small things can obviously create some really strong consumer habits and create a really loyal customer base. And obviously everyone knows that it's much cheaper to actually acquire, once you've acquired the customers, to keep them rather than actually going to get new ones as well. I think a lot of people maybe forget the importance of that outside of like the service industry. I think brands should adopt the same habits. And the other thing from my side, I think, is that payment options coming from Payoneer, I thought it was relevant to mention payments. I think that's an increasingly important aspect, to have flexible payment terms. We've seen a huge rise of different companies that are offering sort of really favorable terms that allow businesses to sort of offset and to be able to pay monthly and have sort of longer terms on buying these products. So, I think unless you're doing these sorts of things now or starting to think about it, you're really going to reduce your addressable market and lose sales because of it. So I think they're two areas that I'd say are really important to focus on.
Yeah, it's good points. Actually, I saw a survey the other day, and I can't remember who did the survey, but they were surveying people about which type of products they'd be buying for loved ones, families, friends for Christmas. And almost 60% of people said that they were going to buy thoughtful gifts this Christmas rather than extravagant things, just due to obviously inflation and cost of living in general. So I think the personalization, customization thing is massive, and it could lead to a really fruitful year for people who are really taking those extra steps.
Only issue on my side, Piers, is I sell garden waste bags, and unless my girlfriend wants a garden waste bag, I'm not sure I'm going to be in the good books.
Yeah, you may be stumped. Maybe put your initials on there or something. How about you, Yoni?
So I guess I want to touch the subject of the pendulum swing that I've kind of noticed in the past, I guess, 2+ years since the pandemic broke. What happened was, e-commerce got accelerated with being adopted by all these layers of consumers who were stranded at home, and that was really great for the industry. That's the first hit of the pendulum. So it lifted the industry and it gave us tremendous growth. Part of that phenomenon was that you can't get enough inventory. You always kind of stock out, because the factory shutdowns, the global logistics, strains or costs, or so you're always kind of running behind. And now the pendulum is swinging the other way, where finally you started basically, because you were so short, you made bigger purchases, bigger orders. So now you have all this inventory locked and loaded, ready to go, but the demand has subsided. It's much more cool, and it got lowered. So many sellers out there are stuck with inventory, and it's a reason for concern because all their cash is tied up with that. So, this coming Q4 is going to be a crucial opportunity for many of these sellers to be able to cash out of their positions of that, excess inventory. So you have to put a real hard focus on it, because come Q1, if you still have too much inventory, not enough cash, it could be detrimental for your business. You might be basically forced to cash out of the game, or just liquidate yourself and just go to Pradeep, and he has a whole division for that. Yeah. So if you want to avoid meeting with Pradeep, you got to make sure your cash positions are really strong.
Bring me all the junk. I'm a trash
Listen, there's two options. You can go to Alex if you have a good business. You go to Dash or to Alex and make a good exit. And if you hit the wall, you go to Pradeep. So you got good solutions here. You have two lanes here, which is all very helpful. But yeah, so you got to be very, very mindful of your cash positions. But even if you really do great on Q4 in your cash positions, make sure to find a good lending or financial partner that can help you even have more. Meaning, take it when you don't need it. That's the best way to take money is when you don't need it, because when you need it, everybody's kind of looking at your numbers. Why do you need it? Oh, you have a big risk here, so they're not gonna give it to you. So work hard this Q4, making sure that you really are aggressive with your pricing. You're able to really cash out. And then in addition to that, make sure you get the right funding, partner. So you have excess inventory, because as these businesses will start failing, you're gonna have and the cost will, reduce. You have the opportunity to go even more aggressive and really grow your market share, because the opportunity is around the corner, but you got to survive the turn. So that's kind of the main idea that I see here.
Do you think that excess inventory piece is partly behind the reason why Amazon's chosen to do a second Prime Day? Do you think? Yeah,
I think Amazon is trying to help in any way possible to stimulate consumers to shop, because the demand just subsided. So I don't want to say it's desperate. It's almost like Amazon all of a sudden, what do you need double dip? I mean, what's the rush? We just had it. But it's a signal from Amazon where they got to kind of break the ice and stimulate. They need it for, I guess, October, because November, December will have their own built-in demand. But that in between October, I guess they wanted to give an easy lift. I mean, for them to say Prime Day, just a few words. Prime Day, decorate the whole digital space in Prime Day, and you have more demand, unless they're really putting some money behind it in terms of radio marketing. But we'll see. It's a good question.
I personally have the feeling that customers are getting much more price sensitive these days. Inflation rate is everywhere. People are not willing to spend very much money currently, and deals are getting more and more important. And just pumping up another Prime Day where you see lots of deals, like 2 days of deal madness, I would even say, makes a lot of sense, because people are price sensitive, and deals are a good reason to buy another. So last Prime Day we saw like cleaning stuff and this kind of being top of the sales ranks, which you would not like commodities, and this shows like people are shopping for are very price sensitive.
Yeah.
So you're saying they're shopping for essentials, so they need a discount on the essential just to keep up with the essentials, yeah, instead of like privileged shopping.
Yeah, I mean, we saw something like that last year. So not on us personally, but looking just at Amazon and the biggest items selling during Prime Day. This was kind of some washing pulver or something like that. I don't know. It was really just commodities, and
it shows you where consumers are at. It shows you where they're at. It's interesting. A good point.
Yeah, I suppose from the consumer's point of view as well, they're all trying to forecast how much money they're going to have towards the end of the year. I mean, people might still have some reserves at the moment, but come November, December, when the heating's ramped up and you need to keep yourself warm, actually maybe people are going to try and do some holiday season shopping earlier. And that's, Amazon's trying to compete with Walmart as well, doing their, big deal event this month. So yeah, it's all interesting to see. Look, guys, that was very insightful. Lots covered, and I'm also wary of the time. So we said to all attendees that we'd only be doing about half an hour. So if we move on, and rather than talking broadly, I'm going to go a bit more specific and ask each of you, what one piece of advice would you give to sellers in order to help them continue scaling throughout not only Q4 but also next year? Who wants to kick off first?
Who wants to suicide first? Who wants to be hanged first? Go ahead.
Well, I'll go first. I'm in a
trash man.
I'm declaring I'm in a holy crusade, trying to get sellers to think more critical, because there are a lot of gurus out there, godmen, heretics, skeptics, and so forth. What you need to do is, we're getting top heavy sometimes with all this knowledge coming in, and we're not going back to basics. Right? Back to basics. You're buying something cheap and selling at an increased price, right? Get back to basics. The COGS, you need to make sure that the COGS are right. And here's the thing. Why do you have to scale? I've been in corporate pharma. I've been selling products, drugs, and so forth, medicinal drugs, not that kind of drugs. Sometimes scale is not this. Scale is this, right? Or scale is this. You don't need to horizontally scale. You can scale vertically. And what I say to individuals now, particularly when we're looking back, is that people say, oh, this is my business. This is my baby. it's not your baby, it's your business, right? You got to start cutting things, cut the ASINs, cut the crap, cut the marketplaces, and concentrate on your strengths, right? And scale sometimes means plateau. Plateau for a while, get the maintenance right, then go again with another product launch when you can, or go again with another brand launch. Sometimes you don't have to scale. And when I say this, everyone's like, oh, because we've come to a position where we're using the word scale so much, and it's been overloaded at all the conferences, all the talks, and all the podcasts. Sometimes it's not about scaling, guys. Sometimes it's about maintaining, and then you can scale horizontally when the time's right.
I have to add to that, because what you're touching is very, very correct, because at times of trouble, surviving is scaling, because everybody's kind of falling apart, and you're surviving. That is scale compared to others, especially compared to the competition. And so if you're doing $1 million a year in revenue and you kept that, and your competition used to do 2 million, and now they're doing $500,000, you scaled compared to them, and you're in a better position, a better market share position. So in times of trouble, survival is scale. In times of prosperity, everybody's scaling. That's when you have to kind of really go into the rat race of putting things together. We were just there the past 2 years and the past 6 months. That's where the paradigm has shifted. And so if you're still scaling and growing, kudos to you, keep that momentum. But if you lost the momentum, you're your competitors. Survival is the mindset. I just wanted to add to that. I didn't want to just recap, also, but if that's my recap, that's fine.
Yeah, and also when you do that, you're coming off a lot smarter at the back end when you leverage that for acquisition or an exit or finance and cash flow. Your numbers through a bad period will be solid, right? That will help you get cash flow or plug into financing elsewhere, right? And then you look like a solid business. But if you scale and you're all over the place, you're plateauing, you're in trouble. And also exiting wise, afterwards, you want to exit, you look better. You look like a sensible business done well. So I think it's leverage and perception as well. And sometimes you don't have to scale.
Yeah. If you did want to scale, what should you look at first? And yeah, Tom, perhaps you're like primed to talk about this, moving into new markets, considering that's what to actually do.
Let's do this. Tom, what are you doing to scale? Because you're in the game, you're in that mix.
It's a very good question. Actually, I'm in the process of reviewing exactly where we are as a business, going back to basics, looking at our SKUs and actually working out what's best to expand and where. And I was actually just about to talk about scaling into new markets and geographies and things, but it's also really, vital to actually take a step back and do constant reviews on the business through the highs and lows. Obviously, with like Q4 and everything, everyone gets excited, mass sales, etc. But at the same time, there's inventory issues on the back end and things. So I think it's always a seesaw and getting it right. In terms of like the scaling aspect, or how businesses I think should be thinking about 2023, is really researching, using the right partners in place to be able to understand on a data-driven approach as to where you should be taking your business, whether that's marketplaces. Amazon isn't the be all and end all, when it comes to marketplaces, especially in the likes of Europe. And then obviously there's, different geographies that may be more relatable to your product. So yeah, I guess really doing that review, leaning on the partners to be able to do so. And when you do expand and you do scale, jump in with 2 feet and don't do a half-hearted effort.
Yeah, that's great points. I think it's also important to do your pre-qualification or vetting of who you're actually working with in terms of service providers. I've spoken to quite a few sellers recently that have so many service providers that are being paid for. Margin compression is already being felt from all angles. And then you've got too many service providers or too many gurus in the mix. And this comes back to what you were saying, Pradeep. And actually the business is just being depleted. So it's quite hard, I think, especially when you are scaling up as a company, to know who to talk to. Does anyone have any tips or suggestions on really how to do that?
These are not bad people. Services have to be services, right? But the thing is, we're in an industry where there's a lot of impressionable young people in their 20s and early 30s kind of scale and doing well. And we're seeing calls where I'm like, why do you spend on this? And they're like, oh, we thought YouTube or Twitter or whatever, TikTok will be great. I'm like, well, your COGS is rubbish. Like, what's going on? And one thing I learned is that I'm like, how many factories have you talked to? And people get very comfortable with their supply chains and in warfare they call it line of communications, right? Because they're like one thing, logistics, one forwarder, and they don't have any negotiation ability. So why don't you talk to 3 or 4 factories? Forget partners, get the right partners, get the right factories. Go again and negotiate your deals and to try to change things. Can you go from cardboard to zip pockets, right? or something else, I'm sure the consumer will want something cheaper than something fancier in this kind of market. So those are two things also, sometimes you're too top heavy and you forget the bottom partners and the very like factories, and also where you can really tighten and be very stingy.
Look, if the consumer's trying to tighten purse strings, then people need to also budget in that, into margins as well. So it's another good point.
On this margin topic, I have the feeling that most of sellers, they do pricing in a very gut-driven way, I would say. So they say my COGS are like that. I want a 40% margin, so that's my price. But that's not how we do it. For example, we do an elasticity-driven price. So we look how is our price affecting the demand and our sales velocity, and we do think about pricing a bit more, I don't know, advanced in some ways, and sellers need to step up their game and not only think about what is my COGS, how can I reduce my COGS, and what is my margin. They also need to think about pricing strategies. And when it comes to marketing, I also feel like I don't feel that that's kind of the truth. The easy days are very much over. Like 3 years ago, I remember we were just doing sponsored product auto campaigns, and we were growing with these at a 3 to 5% total advertising cost of sales. So our marketing efficiency was great. The business was growing. Everything looked good, but this is not how it works nowadays. Amazon is very much a pay-to-play, like gamers used to say, placement and not placement, marketplace. And when it comes to marketing, you need to plan decent marketing budget as well. And that comes back to what Pradeep said, like have your COGS in place, like get them as low as possible, plan decent marketing budgets, and make a good pricing strategy. I feel like lots of sellers are not kind of doing that at the moment, and that's what I would suggest people to do.
Yeah, pretty good point. Yoni, what, like from your perspective, and I don't know whether this ties into Getida at all, but what would you say people should be focused on right now in order to, maybe not scale, but even just survive?
I guess the question has the answer, the focus. So I want to clarify on the focus. When you say scaling, right, it means you want to scale your profits, right? You don't want to scale. You could scale your revenue only if it scales your profits, because you might be doing $1 million a year, making 100,000 in profit, then you'll scale up to 10 million a year, but you're making 50,000 in profit. You did absolutely nothing. It's counterproductive. So that being said, when you talk about scale, you want to scale your profits, because we all work for profits. Unless you're a charity organization, that's a different discussion. But so based on that focus, unpack your whole organization or your whole structure and find the profit centers. You find a good profit center, you amplify it. And if that gets amplified properly, okay, what do you need to amplify it? Is another employee? Is another tool? Is another service? Is another strategy, price elasticity, another types of advertising component. So it drives more traffic with really good conversion rates, and boom, profit. So profit focused, profit centered. If you really are able to tune into that, probably your revenue will grow, all that, or your organizational structure will grow, or everything else will follow. But it all drives down from you being able to drill down what is working, amplify it. What's not really working, try to cut it loose. Then what happens is, like if you have too many subscriptions to or too many things, you cut down on a few of those, boom, your profits kind of all of a sudden increase. So you scaled, even though if you're making the same kind of revenue. So I want to clarify on the focus. The question was, what can you do to focus on scale, focus on profit? That's kind of the main agenda I wanted to bring out there.
One quick thing as well, I forgot to mention, is human resources. We send some ridiculous hires, right? You can get cheaper hires everywhere in the world. It's a big world connected. Be careful of your hires. I'm not going to give you out, but a company hired an ex-US Army supply chain logistics person, brilliant guy, paid a lot of money. I'm like, why would you want someone that sent bullets and tanks into Afghanistan, Iraq, doing 10 ASINs in the US marketplace? Come on, guys. Like, it's a lot of money in that kind of PL that was wasted. So seriously, human resources, and change them around as well. If you have strong SOPs and you're dictating the SOPs, you can take those SOPs and give it to someone else, and they can follow it straight up as well.
I guess to add to what you're saying, don't look for a big resume that it's outside the landscape. Look for a good experience within the landscape. that we're in the ecosystem, because they might not even have a resume because they never had to write a resume, because already 5-10 years selling on Amazon, doing so great. They have really good experience with one agency or even for their own business, and now they're in the market looking for another position. So keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, great stuff, guys. Look, I'm wary of the time, so let's say we'll close off in 2 minutes. But if we use that 2 minutes, if any of the audience or anyone that watches this video in the future has any questions, how can they get in touch with you guys? Alex, we'll start with you and just go around quickly.
So I think best way to get in touch with me is over LinkedIn. Just look for my name, Alexander Swade, and then you'll find me.
Awesome.
For me, it's Pradeep Kumar Sasidaran, my name on LinkedIn, and pks@donsville.com email.
Yeah,
Tom, go ahead.
From always an awkward silence. Yeah, from my side, guys, hit me up on LinkedIn or Instagram. So that's Tom Meek, or yeah, drop me an email on tom.meek, MEEK @taxually.com.
Yeah, so myself, my email is Yoni M, which is my first name and the first initial of my last name, yoniem@getida.com. Also pretty active on social media, Facebook and LinkedIn. Just look for me there, connect. I'll be happy to help and assist and engage in any time, any day.
Awesome. So we'll send out a follow-up email with the recording. As I said, it's live, so it's going to be on YouTube as well, for anyone that wants to tune in at a later date. But guys, thank you all very much for joining. It's been an absolute pleasure to have all of you on, and thanks to anyone in the audience who's watching. Yeah, we'll see you guys soon. Take care.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Bye.